everybody, I'm back to read a couple of more chapters of Spider Man Psychology Untangling Webs, edited by Travis Langley, author of Batman and Psychology, co edited by Alex Langley. Before we continue, please do me a huge favor, smash that like button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, follow me in the links in the description below if you enjoy the content that I am putting out. But without further ado, let's just have a nice chill afternoon, read a couple of chapters, and hopefully you all enjoy. Reweaving. How those great powers alter a young hero's sense of self and world. Travis Langley. Power doesn't always corrupt. Power can cleanse. What I believe is always true about power is that power always reveals. Pulitzer-winning author Robert Cairo. Your story will change lives, Peter. That's your greatest power. Aunt May. When Peter Parker leaps out of a car's path, Sending Moon accidentally webs her entire bedroom, or Miles Morales vanishes from sight, suddenly camouflaged. Those moments mark childhood's end more than the spider bites that cause them do. Each transformation offers a dramatic puberty metaphor, which may be why so many prominent spider heroes gained those powers during high school. Peter, Cindy, Miles, and the variation of Gwen Stacy, nicknamed Spider-Gwen, are undergoing the already turbulent changes of adolescence when spider bites alter their faster and more wildly than puberty ever could. The onset of superpowers makes for the ultimate growth spurt. I want to make sure I show off the illustration when I can. At a time in life when identity crisis may approach its peak, unanticipated changes impact how teens see themselves and others, including how they evaluate themselves relative to family, friends, rivals, strangers, and anyone else they notice. Cognitive processes, even moral reasoning, grow more complex. Physical and mental changes remap the surrounding environment so that they see the world from new perspectives, dramatically so when the new point of view includes the tug of a web line, the feel of wind against the face, and the sight of the city when swinging in an arc between skyscrapers, city stories up in the air. Power as developmental milestone. We grow up, we change. We expect to become more capable and to gain new skills as we develop. Puberty rewrites the rules in ways that may delight, distress, or disappoint us. The smallest child may pray for a growth spurt that will let them stand tall above all peers, and sometimes that happens, yet another person's changes, whether developmental, accidental, or pathological, makes them feel betrayed by their own bodies. Change changes us. Secular as that may sound, changes in our bodies and abilities produce changes in our self-concepts and patterns of behavior in ways both good and bad. Each young spider hero's origin story becomes their personal rites of passage, their ceremonial transition between childhood and adult life, a time of identity reconstruction when each individual leaves behind the rules of early life to recreate themselves as adults. Whether growing up or gaining superpowers, adolescence changes in abilities and physique alter the ways in which we relate to the world and see ourselves. The synonyms some adopt: Spider Man for each of the boys and Spider Woman for Gwen, to indicate that all of these youths want to be treated and seen as adults. Though the spider bite sets this process in motion, that inciting incident is not the moment they know they're changing. It is not the first whisker, the first crack of pubescent voice, the first surprise by bodily fluids. However, traumatic as spider bite may be, few people who have been bitten would list it among life's significant milestones. In terms of self-discovery, the milestone that divides each young hero's life before from life after is the moment of the powers manifest. Peter Parker's first display of spider powers lays the foundation for them all. Wrapped up in his thoughts as he walks down the street, Peter nearly gets hit by a car. Reflexively, he leaps out of its path and clings to a brick wall. The astonished teen finds he can scale the wall easily. Reaching the top, he grabs onto the steel pipe, which he crushes as though it were paper. He has gained the proportionate speed, strength, and agility of a spider. No one has prepared him for this. Who could? Even teens who would have been told what to expect as they develop get caught off guard by the reality, and not everyone enters puberty forewarned. Real teens may be reluctant to discuss changes in their bodies and abilities. Fear of rejection may make them wary of disclosing how different they feel. Even the popular kids, sometimes especially the popular kids, worry about getting alienated by peers, and so they may keep secrets. Some share with peers, perhaps using pubilate, teen-specific slang, to bond with one another while distancing adults. But others feel they have no one they can talk to. Our spider heroes each have reason to feel more alien than ever before. As Peter marvels at his new powers and puts them to the test, he also wonders what in the world he should do with them. Little does he know that elsewhere in the neighborhood, a young woman bitten by the same spider will uncontrollably spray silk webbing from her fingertips all over her room. When her parents rush in, they find her sitting embarrassed and baffled on the floor. They comfort her, as any good parent should, but they cannot fully reassure their daughter because none of them understand this. Many teens share this experience, such as LGBTQ+ youth who may neither understand their own feelings nor have parents who have any inkling on how to respond, and too many have reasons to fear rejection by their own families. The Gwen Stacy who becomes Spider-Woman, then Spider-Gwen, then Ghost Spider, worries how her father will react. She feels all alone, even haunted. After a few stumbles on his own, Miles at least can seek advice from his world's Spider-Man's loved ones. Aunt May encourages Miles both to embrace the mantle of Spider-Man and to be his own person without second guessing. Don't do what Peter Parker would do. Do what Miles Morales would do. The changes do not end with those milestones. Even without the adventures and misadventures their crime fighting paths may take, the powers themselves will continue to make changes in them and their perspectives. The spider in Spider Man. No one else had to know the powers came No one else had to know the powers came from a spider. A Golden Age superhero who gains super speed from a transfusion of mongoose blood dubs himself the Wizard, not Mr. Mongoose. The spider bite apply no woolly arachnid qualities to Peter, Gwen, and Miles. Not even crawling walls is exclusive to spiders. Lizards could lizards excuse me. Lizards do it. The X-Men's Nightcrawler does it. The Prowler and others use special equipment to do it. Silk's organic webs are more clearly spidery, but she goes into hiding for 10 years and does not yet become a superhero. No, Peter, Gwen, and Miles embrace and declare their spidery origins by choice. Through introjection, they identify so strongly with the spider symbol that they incorporate it into superhero identities. As a symbol, anything that represents something else, the spider shape or webbing may embolden each of them through association with a creature they find strong, fearsome, and humble. It certainly invokes fear in many criminals. Unfortunately, it does that in many citizens as well. Arachnophobia, the fear of spiders, and usually other arachnids, ranks among the better known specific phobias, possibly the best known one. Even people whose reactions to spiders are not clinically phobic, not severe or intrusive enough to interfere with functioning, often find them unnerving. Identifying with a symbol so divisive may reflect the character's mixed feelings about themselves. Crawling, jumping, spinning through space. As soon as Peter climbs the first wall, his world grows taller. Jumping between buildings extends his cognitive map, his mental representation of his physical environment. Regardless of our knowledge that buildings are tall, we mainly relate to their space in two dimensions. With each floor a flat geometric plane we walk along. Elevators and stairs, though moving us through the third dimension, move us to the building's level surfaces where most of us spend our time. Through repeated rehearsal, firefighters begin to think differently about surfaces they climb and to feel differently about the space, all the while staying alert for flames or objects that can come at them from any direction. Tree trimmers, communication tower technicians, skyscraper construction workers, and others working high altitude jobs develop new perspectives and new ways of feeling for a world that reaches through all three dimensions while pinned one way by gravity. Together, climbing and jumping reshape the environment and awareness of objects through increases awareness of object heights without even ascending buildings. Basketball players progress from simply thinking about the goal's height to developing a feel for it as well. Gymnasts and many other athletes move through three-dimensional space as befits their respective sports, while Spider-Man backflips through that kind of space over his foes. Web slinging takes Spider-Man to new heights and new angles, new directions, and so his cognitive map grows. Fans may argue that web slinging is no superpower because Peter Parker uses web shooters and special web fluid. For some of the spider heroes, notably Cindy Moon or symbiote powered characters such as Venom and eventually Spider Gwen, shooting webs is a superpower. For Peter Parker, outside of the film version played by Tobey Maguire, it usually is not. Keep in mind that Peter invents the technology himself. His first power is his intelligence. Rapidly inventing his tools requires great analytical intelligence, ability to think convergently and solve problems through logic, and creative intelligence, ability to think divergently and generate imaginative solutions. Even in versions where he bases his web fluid on a formula his father came up with, Peter completes the inventions himself. Enhanced physical abilities enable him to use them effectively. Regardless, Spider Man's superhuman use of the web shooter to swing his way through the city extends his personal domain through all the space between and around the buildings, through all the air overhead. Web slinging changes how he interacts with the city and its people. He develops a intricate knowledge of New York City to traverse it and use an intimate connection because swinging between buildings keeps him tethered to them. His practical intelligence, ability to learn through unprompted observation, constantly adjusts his 3D cognitive map. This method of transportation and climbing surfaces surfaces others cannot reach, keep him at a distance from everyday people and most of all his fellow superheroes. Spider-Man can be both connected to the city by the web line and yet far from people he saves, sometimes webbing people to safety without touching ground himself. No other superhero spends so much time at unusual angles or simply upside down, not even that Bat-themed hero whose namesake sleeps upside down. That 3D cognitive map is more accurately a 4D cognitive map to account for time because Spider Man stays in motion. When moving through the air, he must maintain continuous control, feeling the tension through the web line and adjusting his body all along the way. Though the average person may not go swinging through the city, motion requires temporal awareness, a conscious or unconscious sense of time and timing. Through much of the 20th century, most perception research took place in a laboratory setting with stationary observers directed to view motionless stimuli. In the 1970s and into the 1980s, essentially the Bronze Age of comics, a group of psychologists made the point that this traditional method lacked ecological validity. It was not true to real life. Crap, what was that? Hmm. Sorry. Webbing also extends Spider Man's sense of physical self. Even when it's artificial web fluid mixed in the lab, webs become an extension of his body, no less than a hockey player feels the hockey stick, and through it, the puck and ice, or a sword fighter feels every waver of the blade. Webs like Spidey reach far beyond the limits of his hands and arms to catch people who are falling or to stop criminals in their tracks. Spider Man's cumulative time spent maneuvering physically risky aerial feats may have been may have a negative effect on his well-being. Circus performers, particularly aerial acrobats, who perform under similar conditions to Spider-Man, tend to show poor mental health than the uh, uh, than most in the general population. Correlation does not prove causation, of course. Perhaps people with a propensity towards lower mental health are drawn to the risk of acrobatic circus life, but perhaps not. Perhaps a third factor, such as a sensation seeking, brings these together. The parallel does raise questions about the possible effects that near de- new sorry that near daily high wire danger and occasional tragedy among performers might have on a person's sense of wellness. Mm. Hold on, and get like a snack really quick. 1 second. Sorry. Uh, Webbing also extends Spider Man's sense of physical self. Even when it's artificial web fluid mixed in the lab, webs become an extensive extension of his body, no less than a hockey player feels the hockey stick, and through it, the puck and ice. Oh, I already read that. Mm. Spider Man's cumulative time spent maneuvering physical risky area feats. Mm. Uh, the parallel does raise questions about the possible effects that near daily high wire danger and occasional tragedy among performers might have on a person's sense of wellness. The more immersive Spider Man video games may offer players some clues as to how these experiences feel to Peter, Miles, and pals. Combined with the player's ongoing physical activity in adjusting their character's movement, the better haptic technology stimulates some limited motion and touch sensations through pressure, vibration, and motion of controllers, gloves, or other devices. Different games may also work on the player's proprioception of uh, sorry, proprioception or kinesthesia, kinesthesia, sense of body position and movement relative to self. Their vestibular, vestibular, vestibular sense of balance and spatial orientation relative to environment, and the sensory interaction between vision and balance that makes a viewer feel the lurch of a roller coaster when only watching a film. Not unlike the way a player feel for the game will improve, makes anticipatory responses to intercept items or otherwise get their timing right. And even show alterations in the brain, Spider Man's sense and resultant neurons change on a larger scale through the application and extension of his activities. Another superpower also plays a critical role in enabling Spider Man and friends to swing safely through the city, the preternatural spider sense. Danger. Even though Spider Man's origin makes no mention of his spider sense, it comes up in early issues of his own comic book series. In later years, the power is referred to as extrasensory, more specifically, uh, present, uh, prescient. Still, it seems in uh, uh, implicit in the origin. In the scene when Peter first discovers his powers and jumps clear of the speeding car, how does he know to jump? The text say he unthinkingly leaps. Later depictions, such as the 1977 film starring Nicholas Hammond and 2000's origin of the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, clearly present the Spider Sense warning of him of the car's approach. A nation a National Wildlife Federation blog addressed the question of wheelchair whether spiders have a danger detection ability akin to Spider-Man's. Spider-Man is able to sense danger lurking near, the warning signal coming as a pain in his head that varies with the intensity of the threat. Spider-Man can detect danger coming their way with an early warning system called eyes. Might not get through 2 chapters because chapter 4 is pretty long. Their vision isn't even their good. Their vision isn't. Their vision is. God, well, I can't read. Their vision isn't even that good. Spiders do not have a true spider sense to speak of. The closest they came may be in picking up subtle environmental changes through trichobothria, the tiny sensitive hairs on their bodies. Vibrations picked up through webbing may extend that, but webbing has never been requisite for Spider-Man's danger sense, except possibly in Sam Raimi's version. Scientific explanation of how it functions notwithstanding, psychologically, the spider sense taps into sensitive Peter's tendency to obsess over the possibility of something bad happening. For years, the power will remain exclusive to Peter Parker. Young Peter worries intensely and most of the time. In the wake of Uncle Ben's murder, he rarely allows himself to relax for fear that such tragedy may strike again. His spider sense acts as an extension of what may have been a potential towards hypervigilance, excessive alertness to possible danger. The spider sense may loosen Peter's berries. Berries. The spider sense may lessen Peter's worries about what might happen, because he now knows for certain whether danger is coming or not, usually, thus removing the ambitious dread felt by others suffering from anxiety and hypervigilance. His worries tend to be specific. Cindy Moon's decade of isolation keeps her from adapting to her silk sense, as the Cindy Moon's decade of isolation keeps her from adapting to her silk sense, as she prefers to call it, rather than spider sense or spidey sense. New York City, filled with risk in all directions, hits her like pins on raw nerves. Unaccustomed to the buzz, Silk calls Spidey to ask, "How do you feel with all the static?" He knows what she is asking. How do you deal with all that static? He knows what she's asking, but can only recommend that she find balance by attending to all the city's other sensations as well. And he reassures her, "You're gonna be okay, Sin. You just need time." Her social anxiety likely manifests the ongoing pickle. What does the spider sense have to do with their spatial awareness and maneuvering? Spidey realizes its value in the record value in his record when the power goes temporarily disabled. Swinging by his way to a crime scene, He shoots a web line onto a brick and wall. Mm. Swinging his way to a crime scene, he shoots a web line onto crumbling brick and falls. It hits him. All this time, my spidey sense must have prevented me from making those kind of shots. From web slinging like that. Okay. Sorry. It's been a long day. Swinging his way to a crime scene, he shoots a web line onto crumbling brick and falls. It hits him. All this time, my spider sense must have prevented me from making those kinds of shots, from web slinging like that. He has never realized all the ways the power of affecting so many of the things I do. Perhaps part of the reason Spider-Man works more often without a partner is because the tingle in his head makes the most reliable I lost my line. He has never realized all the ways the power affected so many of the things I do. Perhaps part of the reason Spider Man works more often without a partner is because the tingle in his head makes the most reliable partner he could ask for. I'm probably have to just end this, wrap up this chapter and call it. The exhaustion starting to catch up with me. Different games may also work on the player's perception or kind of. Oh no, all right. The man in Spider Man. Except for the web climbing part, the powers visible to others consist only of basic human abilities magnified. No more distinctly spidery uh, than the kind of enhanced strength shown by Captain America or Jessica Jones. Only by calling his agility, speed, and strength proportionate that of a spider does Peter associate those powers with arachnids. He makes that assertion before many quantitative tests. Though uh, uh, he makes assertion before any quantitative tests, though, and scientists seems to contradict his interpretation. These powers make Spidey and company superhumans, but not Spider-Man, but not spider humans, and do not criticize their superhero identities. Characterize, I'm sorry, do not characterize their superhero identities. In many ways, the powers affected their everyday lives more than the obvious specific powers. Peter does not have to dodge speeding cars and aggressive bullets every hour of the day. Even without becoming a superhero, suddenly uh, um, Peter does not have to dodge speeding cars and aggressive bullets every hour of the day. Even without becoming a superhero, suddenly growing stronger, farther, and more dexterous than peers can make the adolescent feel more adult. Again, Spider Man Spider Woman. One important, if less obvious or famous, superpower may also help the young heroes uh, in ways that are more reckless and careless. That creature that the feeling of having the freedom and independence young youngsters look forward to in adult life. One of the first things to remember about Spider-Man is his extreme durability. Super stamina not only helps him endure and persist in the uh, moments, but also spends uh, subsequent recovery through remarkable healing. Merely knowing about his own durabilities can hold potential tenacity and boost his persistence to keep going despite stacked odds. Uh, Ambu, let's see, Ambu. Think about Naruto right now for some reason. Uh, One important, if less obvious or famous, superpower may also help the young heroes live in ways that are more reckless and careless than create the feelings of having freedom and independence youngsters look for in adult life. One of the first things to remember about Spider-Man is his extreme. Oh, I already read that. Sorry, like I'm losing my spot here. Merely knowing about his own durability can build personal tenacity and boost persistence to keep going despite stacked odds. Unlike Wolverine and Deadpool, whose bodies may regrow several limbs, stories set in the future timelines and the other uh, situations show that if Spidey's limb gets amputated, they do not grow back. Still, he can recover from almost any injury, and he does. Uh, Merely knowing about his own durability can build personal tenacity and boost his persistence to keep going despite stacked odds. Unlike Wolverine and Deadpool, whose bodies may regrow several limbs, stories set in future timelines and other situations above that if Spidey's limbs get amputated. They do not grow back. Still, he can recover from almost any injury, and he knows. Uh, okay. uh, the greatest in, imp, impotent, sorry, impediment to his healing comes from his own behavior. He won't let himself get the rest he needs for it to work. When a bullet wound heals almost completely overnight, he muses, "Guess all I needed was a good night's sleep so I could recuperate." And yet he keeps getting in his own way. After breaking his arm, Peter must wear a cast for weeks until he finally collapses onto his bed and sleeps 24 hours. Uh, waking his finally healed, waking with it finally healed, he shatters the cast All I need was one good night's sleep, and I'm better than ever. It's hard to it's hard to believe I've been on this been on the go every minute since I broke my arm. His stress related ulcer lasts longer than it should. It resurfaces later because of his lifestyle choices. For Peter Parker, feeling more like a mighty man may also get into masculinity issues. After all, how does he first decide to put on his new powers to put his new powers to use? He becomes a wrestler. The boy who has not managed to fend off bullies enters the testosterone splash ring where he physically overpowers his opponents, one grown man after another. In the eyes of many, uh, wrestling, with all its aggression and smack talk, promotes hegemonic masculinity. Remember the wrestling first took place before the stories mentioned the spider sense. He wins through agility, brute strength, when he could use other powers to make money other ways. Uh, According to one story, the spider sense could help Peter with a fortune gambling, such as when he bets on. I was just thinking that. Hmm. According to one story, the spider sense could help Peter win a fortune gambling, such as when he beats the kingpin at poker and donates the money to charity. But he refrains out of social responsibility. It will feel like theft, although uh, he couldn't enter legally legal poker games at age 15. Someone with his powers could make money in other ways without going straight into aggressive man on man competition he wanted to fight. The adventure begins. The adolescent spider hero embarks on a life filled with fun, adventure, and great tragedy, where each gets the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives by helping where they can. When Lyndon B. Johnson, biographer Robert Cairo, and the power always reveals, and said the power always reveals, he added, when he when you have enough power to do what you always wanted to do, then you see that the guy always wanted to do. Of the four characters this chapter compares, Peter, Cindy, Gwen, and Miles, none of them rush to become heroes. Peter wants to make money to help his uncle and aunts. Gwen wants to have fun, and Cindy and Miles want to keep it private. Uh, Power alone does not bring out their superheroism. Each needs a catalyst and some inspiration or tragedy to bring out their heroic sides. But they do already have but they do already have those sides latent within themselves. Other powers emerge at times, and several of them have powers unique to themselves. For both Cindy and Miles, their first manifestation of power, her unleashing silky webs, him turning translucent when distressed because his father and uncle are arguing while failing to listen to what Miles has to say, distinguish them from everybody else. Although Miles' manifestation it's somewhat God, representative of them all. Uh, every spider hero hides. Each can lurk in the shadows and uns- uh, and in unseen corners, in all direction and out of the way places where uh, observation, observers tend not to look. Several grow up feeling overlooked before gaining powers, only to conceal their nature, true nature and lifestyle from others once the powers arrive. In each identity, Peter and the others hide parts of who they are. They try to uh, partition for the superhero self from the civilian self, even though those superheroes keep showing up in the lives of everyone around them, concealing important parts of themselves in uh, one second, in one area to seemingly contradictory truths in themselves, which is not so far removed from how people, particularly teens, always feel already feel about themselves. Superhuman powers enable them to achieve extraordinary things while their human natures yearn for some semblance of ordinary lives. I didn't choose to get bit or gain these great powers. All I ever planned on was being plain old Peter Parker. I never asked to be Spider Man. It just happened. So all I can do is try to make the right choices, no matter how many weird places they take me. Spider Man. All right. Sorry about this. It's only just one chapter today. Exhaustion is starting to catch up with me, and I do not want to butcher this as much as I've been doing. I apologize. Reading through those texts is starting to bother me right now. So, that's all for today. I will get back to it at some point. I'll play it by ear. I got to correct the title of this thumbnail though. But thank you for stopping by. That was the only thing I wanted to do really quick. Think I'll be back tomorrow. Don't know what I'm going to be streaming, but we'll see. And also, I will be getting back to Destiny 2 with the new expansion that's coming out in a few days, but probably won't play that until maybe this coming weekend. We'll see how things turn out. But all in all, I will see you guys later this week. Take care and have a great Sunday. Peace.